In the shadows of a rising empire, two brothers stood on the edge of destiny. After the death of Mehmed the Conqueror, the Ottoman throne became a battleground. Its heirs, Sultan and Bayezid II, locked in a struggle that would echo across Europe and the Middle East. One brother seized power. The other was cast into a life of exile, intrigue, and manipulation by foreign powers, who saw him as a key to controlling the empire's future. We would like to welcome you to the third season of our Ottoman history series. In this season, we will delve into the eventful reigns of Bayezid II and Selim I, while also examining how the empire expanded its influence into Europe and the Middle East. Do you know why thousands of people on YouTube and Patreon support us financially? Because they get history you won't find anywhere else. We release 3 new exclusive videos every week. Plus, they get perks like early access to all videos, voting rights on upcoming series and videos, access to our private Discord, our production schedule, and much more. Right now, 250 exclusive episodes are waiting for members and patrons, including from our series on the Eastern Front of World War II, Spanish War of Succession, the Punic Wars, the Pacific War, the Iberian Reconquista, the Russian Revolution and Civil War, the North African and Italian campaigns of World War II, Sicilian Wars between the Greeks and Carthaginians, and many others. By joining, you're not only unlocking rare content, you're also supporting the stories you love. Your help allows us to keep producing 3 free videos per week while paying our team competitive salaries and growing the channel. Join via the links in the description, the pinned comment, or by pressing the join button under the video. Thanks for making this possible. During the spring of 1481, Mehmed II, the most ambitious and active sultan yet seen by the Ottoman state, had unexpectedly died at the age of 49. During his 30-year reign, the sultan had waged relentless wars across 2 continents, winning many great victories and gaining new lands for his empire. For decades, rulers in the east and west feared his armies, as the echoes of Ottoman drums became synonymous with inevitable defeat. However, with Mehmed's death, a new era would begin for the Ottoman Empire, marked by war between the former sultan's 2 sons, the elder Shahzada Bayezid and the younger Shahzada Jem. According to Ottoman tradition, all royal princes had an equal claim to the throne, not just the eldest member of the imperial dynasty. It was thought that only through divine will and the prince's competence in political and military affairs could he secure the throne. In past Ottoman succession periods, the eldest claimant often secured the throne due to their inherent experience and networks within the royal court, compared to their younger siblings, but this was not always the case. During the interregnum after the Battle of Ankara, Mehmed I had gained the army's loyalty and famously defeated several of his elder brothers to secure the throne. Often, after a prince had secured the throne, it was expected that he would eliminate all threats to his power to ensure the stability of the state against any future civil wars, including executing his siblings. Although it was not a widely popular practice among the public, state-sanctioned fratricide ensured the stability of the Ottoman realm and the continuity of the imperial family for almost an entire century before Mehmed II's reign. As a result, the Sultan had officially codified the practice into law, thereby indirectly planting the seeds of future conflict between his sons. On a cold winter day in 1447, Bayezid was born in Demotica, near the capital city of Edirne. He was the eldest son of Shahzada Mehmed, the first in line to the Ottoman throne, and Gulbahar Hatun, an Albanian concubine. After his father's conquest of Constantinople in 1453, the 7-year-old Bayezid was sent to Amasya in eastern Anatolia to serve as the provincial governor of the region. During these years, Bayezid received a first-rate education from the most prominent Islamic scholars of the day. From an early age, his education reflected the Ottoman model for princely training, combining Islamic scholarship, military instruction, governance, and exposure to court politics. He studied theology, law, literature, and languages, developing a reputation as a thoughtful and pious prince, rather than a purely martial one. Bayezid's long tenure in Amasya proved decisive in shaping his political identity. Unlike some princes, whose provincial appointments were brief, Bayezid governed Amasya for over 2 decades. During this time, he gained extensive experience in administration, taxation, military logistics, and provincial justice. His inner court attracted scholars, poets, and religious figures, reinforcing his image as a cultivated and devout ruler. Bayezid's years in Amasya also allowed him to establish strong ties with key Ottoman institutions, particularly the military elite. He cultivated the loyalty of the Janissaries and provincial cavalry commanders, a relationship that would later prove crucial during the 1481 succession crisis. His governance style emphasized stability and consensus over aggressive expansion, reflecting a temperament markedly different from his father's. While Mehmed II pursued relentless conquest, Bayezid preferred cautious administration and internal consolidation. Relations between Bayezid and his father were complex, as Mehmed often reportedly questioned Bayezid's suitability as a successor, viewing him as overly religious and insufficiently aggressive. These tensions did not result in open conflict, but they created uncertainty regarding succession and encouraged factionalism within the royal court in Constantinople. Despite this, Bayezid remained loyal to his father, refraining from any premature attempt to claim power, and even fighting alongside him at his great victory at the Battle of Otlukbeli in 1473. However, the Ottoman prince's main challenger to the throne would not be his father, but rather his younger half-brother, Cem. Cem Sultan was born in 1459 in Edirne, the youngest son of the Sultan and his concubine Çiçek Hatun. From an early age, the Ottoman prince was recognized for his intellectual curiosity, artistic talent, and charismatic and energetic personality. Following court custom, Cem was appointed provincial governor to gain practical experience in governance, and was assigned to Kastamonu in northern Anatolia in 1469. However, during the crisis years of 1472 and 1473, he served as his father's regent in the imperial capital, while he campaigned against Uzun Hasan. In the aftermath of the Battle of Otlukbeli, Mehmed's favourite and popular son, Shahzada Mustafa, had suddenly died, thus paving the political path for the young Cem. In 1474, he was assigned to govern Konya, a recently conquered province in central Anatolia that remained a hub of unrest. The local region had long been ruled by the rival Karamanid dynasty and retained strong local identities resistant to Ottoman central authority. Cem's governorship placed him at the centre of a difficult task, enforcing imperial rule while managing local Turkic notables who viewed Ottoman rule with suspicion and even hostility. This experience shaped Cem's political outlook and provided him with a distinct support base, which was sidelined under his father's administration in favour of men with devshirme backgrounds. Cem's relationship with his father was reportedly steadfast. Mehmed II valued Cem's intelligence and cultural refinement, but did not clearly signal him as a preferred successor. Some contemporary accounts suggest that court factions sympathetic to the more liberal Cem hoped he might inherit the imperial throne, especially given Bayezid's perceived religious conservatism and reluctance toward continuous warfare. However, Mehmed's failure to designate an heir left both princes in a state of uncertainty, allowing rivalry to develop beneath the surface. With the sudden death of Mehmed II during the spring of 1481, the race to the throne between his two sons began. The Sultan's death was initially concealed by members of the imperial court, a common practice intended to manage the transition of power. This secrecy, however, quickly became a source of conflict. Grand Vizier Karamanlı Mehmed Pasha attempted to control the succession process and is widely believed to have favoured Cem. As an Ottoman statesman with a Turkish background, the Grand Vizier saw the younger prince's support base among Anatolian elites as the best way to curb the ever-growing influence of the Balkan devshirme class in government. His efforts to support Cem included delaying the announcement of the Sultan's death and seeking support for the young prince in the imperial capital. Nonetheless, these maneuvers provoked fierce resistance from the Janissaries, fiercely loyal to Bayezid, whom they regarded as a safer and more predictable ruler who would protect their political interests. As a result, the enraged Janissaries revolted in Constantinople and assassinated Mehmed Pasha, therefore effectively dictating the outcome of the succession before either prince could reach the city. The devshirme Ishak Pasha was appointed as Grand Vizier, while Bayezid's teenage son, Shahzada Korkut, who was present at the capital, was briefly placed on the throne as regent. Despite the chaos in the imperial capital, messengers from both factions began racing across Anatolia to reach their respective princes first. But Beylerbey of Anatolia and supporter of Bayezid, Sinan Pasha, had set up checkpoints on all roads leading to Konya, thus intercepting messengers to Cem, while allowing the news to reach Amasya first. 2 weeks later, Bayezid, along with 4,000 horsemen, arrived in Constantinople, where he was welcomed by cheering Janissaries, who, even during the celebratory occasion, reminded the prince to increase their salaries. With the backing of the army, ulema, and the bureaucracy, Bayezid was proclaimed Sultan in the newly built Topkapi Palace. The race to the throne was over before one side knew that the race had even started. 1 week after Bayezid secured the throne, news finally arrived in Konya to the shock and horror of Cem. Immediately, the young prince rejected his older brother's authority and declared himself Sultan. He ordered coins struck in his name and had the Friday sermon read on his behalf, both of which were essential symbols of sovereign authority in the Islamic world. Cem portrayed himself as a people's sultan who would end the oppression and high taxation of the central state over the provinces, attracting the support of the Turkic notables of Anatolia, local craft guilds, and minority religious sects such as the Alevis. Cem attempted to legitimize his cause further by proposing a negotiated settlement to Bayezid. He suggested dividing the empire, with Bayezid ruling the Balkan provinces and with him governing Anatolia. While such arrangements had historical precedent in other Turkic and Islamic states, Bayezid categorically rejected the proposal. The new sultan responded to Cem with the Arabic proverb, "There is no kinship among rulers." To accept division would have undermined the Ottoman conception of a unified empire and risked a return to the chaos of earlier civil wars. With diplomacy failing, Cem began to prepare for armed conflict. He gathered an army composed largely of Anatolian troops, including irregular cavalry and soldiers drawn from the former Karamanid territories. These forces were motivated by loyalty and local grievances, but they lacked the discipline, training and cohesion of Bayezid's standing army. Cem advanced westward with a force of 4,000 toward Bursa, a city of immense symbolic importance. As the first significant Ottoman capital, Bursa represented legitimacy and continuity, and its capture would have strengthened Cem's claim, while potentially attracting wavering supporters of his brother. In a brief battle near Inegul, Cem routed Ayas Pasha's local forces, and captured Bursa shortly thereafter. Bayezid II responded swiftly and decisively to Cem's advance. Secure in Constantinople and backed by the Janissaries, Bayezid mobilized a large and well-equipped force. His army included elite infantry, provincial cavalry, and auxiliary units drawn from across the empire. Bayezid's strategy was shaped by the lessons of Ottoman history, particularly the interregnum following the defeat of Bayezid I in 1402, when prolonged civil war nearly destroyed the state. Determined to avoid a similar catastrophe, Bayezid aimed to defeat Cem quickly and decisively before the rebellion could spread or invite foreign involvement. Luckily for the Sultan, he had the support of Gedik Ahmed Pasha, the general who had invaded Italy and captured Otranto the previous year. The army he commanded in Albania was redirected away from returning to Italy in order to cross swords with fellow Muslims. After a month of gathering up their armies, the two sons of Mehmed met near Yenişehir, but by the end of the day, the disciplined ranks of the Janissaries proved too great a challenge to Cem. The battle ended in a bloody, chaotic victory for Bayezid. After only 20 days, Cem's rule in Bursa had met its end. With his family and some 40 loyal followers, he fled, escaping the pursuing army and beginning his new life in exile. After a 3-day stay in Konya, Cem fled to take sanctuary with his father's enemy, the Mamluks. Sultan Kayt Bey's lavish reception boosted his confidence, and he believed that with Mamluk support, he could assemble another army to overthrow his brother. This led Cem to refuse Bayezid's request to offer a generous pension, so Bayezid could live out his life in Jerusalem. After a 6-month stay in Egypt, during which he became the first member of the House of Osman to perform the Hajj to Mecca, Cem set out again for Anatolia with 60,000 ducats and thousands of soldiers from Syria. By the spring of 1482, he had gathered his forces in Aleppo, and shortly after continued to Konya, joined by both the also exiled Qasim Bey of the Karamanids and the rebellious governor of Ankara, Mehmed Ağa. With their support, Cem now had a more potent force than before. But during this lull in hostilities, Bayezid had not been idle either, as he gathered a large host to crush his brother, who was now besieging his old seat of Konya. The Sultan rushed into Anatolia, making his way to the former Karamanid capital. In an ambush, the governor of Ankara was captured and beheaded, resulting in his followers changing sides to his cause. Hearing the news of his ally's death, Cem broke the siege on Konya, but during the panicked retreat, the morale of his massive army broke and dissolved away without even seeing a single battle. For the second time, Jem was defeated and powerless, fleeing his brother's wrath. To make matters worse, his last remaining ally, Qasim Bey, surrendered his men and renounced his claim to the Karamanid throne in return for gaining the governorship of Mersin. Losing all of his support and now cut off from Syria by Bayezid's agents, all seemed over for Jem. However, the young Ottoman exile had one more play to make, which was to seek yet another traditional enemy of the Ottoman state for protection, the Knights Hospitaller of Rhodes. 2 years after the failed Ottoman siege of the island's main fortress, Jem entered its walls as a guest of honor. The master of the order, Pierre d'Aubusson, developed a deep respect for him and promised to protect Jem from the wrath of Bayezid. For the Sultan, Jem's survival beyond Ottoman borders represented a constant threat, one that could be exploited by any European power seeking leverage against the empire. Consequently, Bayezid adopted a policy of containment rather than confrontation, preferring to neutralize Jem through diplomacy and financial payments, rather than military action. By late 1482, an agreement was reached between Bayezid II and Aubusson. In exchange for a substantial annual payment of 40,000 ducats, the knights agreed to keep Jem in custody and prevent him from returning to Ottoman territory or rallying foreign support. This arrangement effectively transformed Jem into a political hostage, whose continued detention served Ottoman interests as much as it served those of his captors. For the knights, Jem became a source of income and diplomatic relevance. For Bayezid, he became a manageable threat rather than an unpredictable one. Upon coming to power, Bayezid felt his realm needed a period of respite to address the problems left by his father. The Sultan first ruled out any serious consideration of a military campaign against the West in the near future, as he wanted to end the total domination of the Devshirme elite class that brought him to power in the first place. After defeating Jem in 1482, Bayezid used false rumors of Gedik Ahmed Pasha's complicity in his brother's rebellion, first to dismiss the general from his command, before executing him on charges of treason. This was followed by the dismissal of Ishaq Pasha as Grand Vizier, whose office was later given to more loyal Koca Davud Pasha, who was also given the hand of the Sultan's daughter. In order to further weaken the Devshirme class, Bayezid needed to do the opposite of what his father had done. He focused on strengthening Turkish leadership and the ulema by appointing them to high government positions. Consequently, he aimed to please his brother's former key supporters by returning their confiscated properties, revitalizing Orthodox Islamic institutions, funding new mosques, and supporting religious education. The balance Mehmed broke during his reign was now being restored under his son. As Western Europe celebrated the death of the Grand Turk, a series of counterattacks by Christian powers took place on the European holdings of the Ottoman realm as it was ravaged by civil war. By the fall of 1481, the foothold fortress of Otranto was recaptured by Duke Alfonso of Calabria and his coalition army, comprising troops from Italy and Hungary. With the fall of Otranto, Grand Ottoman ambitions to march on Rome also came to an end, and thus Mehmed's dream of reuniting the two Romes under Islamic rule. That same year saw Ivan Sonayevich of Zeta returning to his realm, after fleeing it during the aftermath of the Ottoman-Venetian peace in 1479. Although he had restored his power in the region, the Montenegrin ruler bowed to Bayezid the following year, under pressure from his family, becoming an official vassal of the Sublime Porte. The son of Skanderbeg himself, John II Kastrioti, also attempted to restart his father's Great Albanian Revolt after Mehmed's death. Having been exiled in Italy after the 1479 peace, the Albanian titular prince landed in Durrës in 1481, where he was later welcomed by many as the true legal heir to the country. During the summer of 1481, John had mustered a small force and won a minor victory in the local region, even briefly managing to liberate the castles of Himara, Sopot and Kruye. However, by 1484, Ottoman armies had re-entered the region, forcing the son of Skanderbeg back into exile in Italy once more. In 1482, Venice seized the Ionian island of Zakynthos, which it considered strategically essential for protecting its maritime routes between the Adriatic and the Eastern Mediterranean. Nonetheless, knowing that he could not wage a prolonged war with the Doge in his unstable state, Bayezid concluded a new treaty with the Republic in 1483, acknowledging the transfer of the island and reaffirming the 1479 peace treaty. During this period of opportunistic moves by Christian powers to reassert their interests in the region after Mehmed's death, only Herzegovina suffered a significant defeat at the hands of Bayezid. In 1482, the capital of Novi fell to Ottoman raiders, and soon after, the rest of the duchy was annexed into the empire. The sudden death of Sultan Mehmed II in 1481 had caused significant instability for the Ottoman state. Nevertheless, as Western European powers took advantage of the chaos, Sultan Bayezid II made ready for war to reassert the dominance of his empire. Although not a natural warrior like his late father, the new Sultan was prepared to protect the realm from all enemies, both in Europe and in Asia. In the next episode of our series on the Ottoman Empire, we will further examine the reign of Bayezid II and his first military campaigns, as the threat of Cem Sultan still loomed. We will cover that conflict as this series continues, so make sure you are subscribed and have pressed the bell button to see it. Please consider liking, subscribing, commenting and sharing, it helps immensely. Our patrons and YouTube members can watch more than 200 exclusive videos. Join their ranks via the link in the description or by pressing the join button under the video to watch these weekly videos, learn about our schedule, get early access to our videos, access our private Discord, and much more. This is the Kings and Generals channel, and we will catch you on the next one.